Daniel, let me go over the phone and speak to Joshua Sa. He's in the Upper East region for us. We'll talk more about the Zebula situation. That's, of course, Zebula, and we've told you about the Kleto Savoka win. But before then, Daniel, there's a lot of voices in our ears right now. Let's go live to the International Press Center, where the GJA is addressing the press on some recorded brutalities against journalists covering the election. This particular period, there's been some incidents. They've been speaking about it. I'll take you live there now.
The coverage of the elections. In the coming days, we will do a thorough appraisal of the performance of the media and the coverage of election 2020. But a cursory assessment so far does not leave any doubt about the quality of work done by the media, and we say are equal to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, our monitoring of the elections since yesterday suggests that generally the conduct of the polls had been peaceful, but for a few pockets of violence across the country. However isolated these pockets of violence may be, they are unacceptable and must be condemned totally. And for us in the media, such uncivilized actions must be denounced in no uncertain terms, as they have left some of our colleagues in critical condition at the hospital. We are informed that about 2:30 a.m. today, there was a shooting incident at a collation center in the Ablekuma Central constituency in Accra. A man said to be a sympathizer of the incumbent member of parliament shot a gun, and the bullet therefrom hit Pius Quenin Asiedu, a reporter with newswatch.com, who has since been on admission at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, popularly known as Rich Hospital. We are informed that Pius has a fracture in the bone as a result of the gunshots, and he's due for surgery this afternoon. Another journalist, Doreen Ampofo of DBC Radio News, who was also at the same collation center, suffered various degrees of injury from a heavy fall as she tried to escape the gunfire and at the same time dodge a big stone thrown at her by an assailant who mistook her to be an EC official. She has since been discharged, and she's here with us this afternoon. The GJA wishes to commend medical officers who attended to our injured media colleagues. Our profound gratitude, particularly, goes to the medical officers at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, who, we are reliably informed, had given Pius special attention on his admission. We are also informed that one police officer was shot at the incident, sustained severe wounds and is responding to treatment. We wish him a speedy recovery. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, what's happened at the Ablekuma Central Constituency Collation Center is certainly a dastardly act that must be dealt with promptly and decisively to serve as a deterrent to other hooligans who may want to perpetrate such violence in the future. It is for this reason that the GJA calls on the Ghana Police to, as a matter of urgency, arrest and prosecute those involved in the shooting incident. We also call on the incumbent MP to produce the alleged shooter to face the full rigors of the law. Meanwhile, the GJA is in touch with SIC Insurance PLC to redeem insurance packages for the affected journalists. You may recall that about 3 weeks ago, SIC graciously offered an insurance package to the tune of 20 million Ghana cedis to 500 members of the GJA who may suffer adversity of death or bodily harm during the coverage of the elections. We wish to once again express profound gratitude to SIC PLC for this gesture to bring relief to journalists so affected. The GJA wishes to reiterate its call on political parties and other political actors to refrain from attacking journalists whose job only is to enhance transparency and fairness of the electoral process. We also wish to admonish journalists once again to be cautious about their safety and security at all times. Furthermore, we admonish the public against the spread and consumption of fake news and videos. These include police simulation exercises which were captured before the elections but are being distributed as if they happened during yesterday's elections. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I thank you for your kind attention, and may the good Lord bless us all.
That's the GJA President, Rolanda Philmoney, there, charging the police to arrest and prosecute perpetrators of brutalities on journalists so covering this particular election. They've raised concerns, citing the number of incidents recorded as a result of what actually happened during the coverage, some shooting, some beating and all that. We'll be crossing over to Studio 997 shortly, where Suleimana Brahma is joining my colleague Benjamin Akakpo in Studio 997. Of course, we'll be hearing him on this particular issue, but I'll take you back to the press center.
This morning, whilst preparing to come to the press center, I had a message from the editor of newswatchgh.com, who told me about what had happened to Pius, and he had been in and out of the Ridge Hospital trying to attend to his colleague and our colleague there. So at this juncture, we want to invite Robert Dela Mawenyegan to come and update us on the condition of Pius as we speak now. Robert, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the press, my own colleagues. It's been a very devastating day for some of us. After a sleepless night, one would have expected that you would have taken a day to complete what you started. But it was around 4 o'clock thereabout when I received a call from the brother of Pius that this is what has happened to his brother, that his brother has been shot. And so, as it has been rightly been narrated by the president as well as the secretary, Pius, I had opportunity to engage him after he got stable to find out what exactly happened. And so he narrated the story that they were in the coalition center at Ablekuma Central. I understand there are 2 buildings and one church building that has only one entrance, which is a gate, a metal gate. So it was only one entrance and one exit. And so there was no way you could get out from any other point. And so unfortunately, while the coalition was going on, it happened that there were pink sheet issues, misunderstandings here and there between the 2 major political parties. And it resulted into a fight. And as a result, the 2 agents, and then what have you, started fighting and doing all that thing. Then from nowhere, a gentleman by name Kola. It is alleged that his name is Kola. We are here to confirm his real name. Understand his name is Kola. Kola, who happens to be a sympathizer of the incumbent government, NPP, from nowhere gave out a shot. And so he shot Pius on the leg, on the left leg. The bullet entered and then exited. And so he has 2 broken bones. The X-ray we had indicated that one of the bones needs to be supported with metal. And we are hoping to take him about 18 months before he can be fully recovered. But the doctors have assured us that they will do everything possible to give him the necessary support. As it stands now, Pius is still at the Ridge Hospital. He's quite stable, and we want to take this opportunity to wish the family well. I know they didn't take this easy, but we have done everything. The management of Newswatch has done everything possible to support, together with the family, to keep him very stable, give him all the necessary medical support. So I wish to inform all of you that Pius is quite stable, he's out of danger, and the doctors are doing everything possible. Hopefully, I'm told that today is not looking good because some of the lab results could not come in early. They had wanted to process the surgery today, but it doesn't look like it is possible because they have to treat the wound and then look at some other medications we needed to buy. In fact, we can't find it. So from here, if not this press conference, I should still be roaming looking for it because they'll use it maybe tomorrow or Friday for him. So hopefully on Friday, as indicated, he should go through the surgery, and we pray that he gets recovered. Thank you.
Well, so that's a relative of Pius with the News GH Ghana who was shot in the process. The relative giving us updates on his well-being just yet. Some broken bones, some disturbing updates on that situation. But currently, it looks like the executives of the GJA are continuing to address the press on some other development. Like I said, we'll be going to Studio 997 and join my colleague Benjamin Akakpo, who is with the Media Foundation for West Africa on this particular situation. But let's quickly wrap up and listen to the DJA.
And also, before then, hold on please. Before Mr. Sempene Mensah comes, and he's here with Paula Anagbla, who is also from his office. Before then, I want to call Doreen, who was also at that same collation center when the incident occurred. And as we say, it is always better to hear from the horse's own mouth. So, Doreen, please come and share your experience with us. Thank you. A round of applause for her.
Well, good afternoon, colleagues, the president of the GG and every other official here. Like our General Secretary said, my name is Doreen, I work with GBC. Now, yesterday, we went to cover the collation of the results at Ablekuma Central. And as you heard my other colleague said, there was a shooting incident. Fortunately for me, my colleague from GTV and I, somehow found ourselves outside the building. And we just heard noise from inside the building. So I was just asking my colleague, do you hear that noise coming from there? She says she's not too sure. So we move some steps ahead, and then the guns started going off. We just heard gunshots going off, and we were just so scared. We were running, and I was in the GJ reflector that was given to us. So I was running, and then I heard one of the guys who was outside the compound and behind the wall say that, look at one of those electoral officials. And so he just picked the stone and then he threw it at me. And I was so scared. I had not experienced that kind of thing before. And so in my attempt to just escape from that, I fell, and then I got bruises all over my hands, my thighs, my legs, and it was really a scary experience for me. I had not really experienced something like that, choosing between life and death, and then just trying to stay alive. And that's all. All that I would have to say. It's really a scary experience. Fortunately, this morning when I went to work, I was picked from work, and I went to the Ridge Hospital. I got some treatment, and so I've just gotten some swelling on my hand and other parts, but I'm much better now. I'm much better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doreen. It must have been a traumatic experience. Sorry about that. May I acknowledge the presence of the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, Mr. Josapon. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now, I invite Mr. Emmanuel Sempene-Mensah to come and encourage us with the package they have.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Mr. President of the GJA. Good afternoon, Media Commission member. I bring you greetings from SIC. What do I say? I'm just imagining this whole process without the journalists being around. How would it have been like? This election without journalists would have been very, very, very bad. Would have been something nobody could have even spoken of. Because I believe that when they even see you, as my sister just said, when they saw the uniform, they said, Bakunye. If you had not been there, it would have been a different story. SIC, we are most happy to be associated with you. And I tell you, we are still with you. No matter the circumstances, we will still support you. We have a package for you, as I mentioned the last time we came here. We said that we are giving each member minimum 3,300, maximum 3,300 cedis a month for injuries. And then we are giving you 40,000 cedis for total disability or death per year. We still stand by that. In the SIC, our promises are always sacred. What we say is what we do. So when we heard of this, we said, no, we have to be here. So please, as the Fantima will say, or the Akan will say, I see a dear, we'll do what we have said. And we still stand by you. We give you the vim, go and get things done properly. Do the right thing. Be bold. Come out freely and say the story as it is. And SIC is firmly behind you. So worry not at all. Pious issue would attend to it as early as possible. We'll be with him. I'll try that tomorrow. I'll take a team of my management there to go and visit him so that we see how he's doing. But journalists of Ghana, we are with you. Do your work professionally and do it the way you are going about it. The whole world is talking about journalism in Ghana. I went to the international media really, and everybody is saying how you have performed. A lot of things would have gone wrong without you. So please, the vim is for you. Go ahead. Thank you so much. Greetings from SIC.
So that's the press conference that just gone by, addressed by the GJA president and its executives on brutalities on journalists. Of course, we've recorded some shooting incidents. You've heard their account, and currently the News Watch GH is Pius is currently receiving attention after being shot and some broken bones. And I'll take you now to Studio 997 and join my colleague Benjamin Akakpo as he interacts with the Media Foundation for West Africa's Suleiman Brahima on this current situation. The GJA is asking the police to arrest and prosecute perpetrators and asking political parties to refrain from attacking journalists. We are here to cover the elections. We are not up for these elections. Benjamin, if you're ready, take it away. I'm dying to hear from Suleiman Brahima on this particular development.
Well, MFL, thank you very much for connecting with us here in Studio 997. And of course, we are your election headquarters. In the studio, joining Suleiman Brahima, who actually is the Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we had a bit of an interaction before coming on air about a number of things we would look into, but you made specific mention of that all-important constituency in this election. And I'm not talking about, the 275 constituencies. I'm talking about the media constituency. We also playing our role as the fourth estate. Now, how do you react to some of the concerns that have been raised? The GBC official who was assaulted, the editor of Newswatch, among others. What's your immediate response to that?
Well, these are very, very unfortunate developments. These shouldn't happen. I think that the media in Ghana collectively are doing a very, very tremendous job in covering this particular election right from yesterday. I think the media has been playing a role as though they are one of those institutions that, must take this thing as though they are the ones contesting. Right from yesterday in the morning, throughout the night, throughout this morning, till now, media organizations, journalists are all over, letting the public know what is happening across the country. And while driving here, I listened to a clip being played from a press conference that was addressed by the General Secretary of the MPP. Right. And in his analysis, he was actually calling on the media to help the public know what the facts are. And that was because he was saying that, accusing the NDC of putting out some information that he said, are false information. And then he said, look, this election, fortunately, is being covered widely by the media across the country. And he's calling on the media to let the public know what the certified results from the various constituencies are. And I think that to the extent that the ruling party would think, look, we could rely on the media to give us what we want to debunk, what we think is false information coming from the NDC, is a testimony of the great work that the media is doing. So these developments certainly are very unfortunate. I haven't heard that some person or somebody has been brutalized or shot because they are, or because he or she is a journalist. Right. Yesterday, for example, there was one incident in the Wutu Senya East, I suppose.
Yes.
And I
think it was West, was it?
I think it's East.
But it was definitely in the Wutu Senya, the Wutu Senya area.
Yes. And I'm told that one of the victims, 2 people got injured, and I'm told one of them was a journalist, or is a journalist, and was rushed to the 37 military hospital. Unfortunate as it was, and I believe that the perpetrators must be brought to book. I think that is one critical thing that we would focus on.
And that is part of the problem,
forward.
because sometimes all of these things happen, but the perpetrators, we never get to know who exactly, did what, and for their heads to roll. Because in the end, if justice is served that way, then you know that there is some element of protection.
I just feel that the police this time around will live up to the expectations. So far, I think they've also done a great job, because if voters have been safe, if journalists have been safe, in doing their work, it's also partly because of the aura and the atmosphere of security that they feel around them, and that is being coordinated by the police. And I believe that if one of the victims happened to be a police officer, by now we would have known who the perpetrator is or are. And so I would urge the police to act so swiftly in the same manner that they would have done if the victim happened to be a police officer. And I would also want to commend the GJA for addressing the media and bringing this issue to the public attention, because it's such a crucial development. And at the end of the day,
proactive,
yes,
as far as the GJA is concerned?
I think so. Ahead of the elections, we have done, work across the country. I know the GJA has been training journalists. I happen to be one of the trainers just about 2 weeks ago on media safety issues. And so the GJA has done a commendable work ahead of the elections. We have had, arrangements with the police. There is a media police relations document that we are all following. And I believe that the document, for example, prescribes what should be done when incidents like this happen. And that is why I'm confident that our friend Sheila, who has the police public affairs department, will take this matter seriously, bring it to the attention of the authorities in the police administration, so that we quickly find the perpetrators and make sure that justice is done to these victims. It shouldn't just be talking about it, insurance package for the affected, which is a great thing that the GJA has done. it should be about punishing those who are behind these crimes. Whether or not these people were or are journalists, I don't think that we should be in a country where people feel I can shoot at anybody or I can shoot at people, aim at people, shoot them, and go scot-free because I'm a member of a political party, and therefore my political party will be behind me.
So that would be the missing piece in this entire puzzle. Even if the insurance packages, and it's just been mentioned, they're going to get the insurance packages and all of that. Fortunately, no one has lost his or her life, on account of covering the elections. But until the perpetrators are actually brought to book, that would be a missing piece that ought to be, addressed.
Exactly. I think that one of the dangerous things happening now across the world when it comes to safety of journalists is the issue of impunity. Right. Indeed, the statistics show that out of about 10 journalists who are killed or maimed or whatever, quite often less than 2% of the cases are addressed. And the danger is that, as they say, impunity begets impunity. So once somebody commits a crime and nothing happens to the person, it then emboldens others to say that, well, if Kofi did it and nothing happened, then I can also go ahead and do it. And then people also feel, well, committing crimes against journalists is a normal thing because, and in this country in particular, we've had series of incidents, against journalists, many of which have not been resolved, including your own colleague Latif's incident, which remains unresolved, including
Ahmed Swali, who actually lost his life.
Exactly. And I think that, unfortunately, the police haven't really acquitted themselves well on the Ahmed Swali incident. We still don't know the status of investigations. And I don't get the impression that, it is a matter that was taken as a high-profile incident. Unfortunately, that particular incident has been one of the low points in terms of the international outlook of our country. Because nearly every report that you look at in terms of human rights, in terms of our democracy, and so on, you would find that particular incident in there being cited as a negative development. Unfortunately, authorities in this country haven't taken it as a serious matter. Unfortunately, the president said we shouldn't look at it as a press freedom issue. But globally, all reports are pointing to it as one of the incidents that continues to affect our press freedom ranking. And so I think we need to take these matters very seriously and deal with them in a way that, everyone would know internationally that, look, we are a country that would protect and promote the rights of journalists.
Okay, so we're talking about the fourth realm here, and we've spent some time on this because just on the back of, the GJA's presser and what Afil Money has been saying. But delving further into the security situation, for example, generally, we saw the happenings in Kwesi Mintim where EC officials were even prevented from, getting access to the town. Then there was the issue in Fomena, for example, when the independent candidate actually came through as the winner and the EC office there being set ablaze and all of that. There are pockets of them, Sunyani, like you mentioned, in the Owutu Senya area. So many of them. When you make a global assessment of the security situation in election 2020, what would your brief assessment be?
Well, I think that these isolated incidents are very unfortunate developments. Elections, national elections like this is such a complex event, logistically, security-wise, and so on. And the other thing is that we are in a country where our elections are so competitive. So because
it's winner take all.
Yes, between the two parties.
And this is something we've bemoaned for a long time, but it is winner takes everything.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
And so you can understand why it is what it is.
Members of the two parties and their officials would want to do anything possible to ensure that they prevail at the end of the day. The reality is, as some senior police officer said some time ago, if people decide to be rowdy, if people decide to be indisciplined, and people decide to be lawless, there is not much that our security agencies can do because of the numbers. We're talking about the police force, perhaps that is less than 40,000. our military, I don't know, I mean, but of course...
And we look at the shortfalls comparatively per UN standards and what we have available.
And during elections, we deploy the allied security agencies, the immigration, the fire service, and so the prisons and so on. But these are institutions that you also have to look at. To what extent do people, fear or hold these personnel from these institutions to a certain standard in terms of, if I commit a crime, to what extent would a fire service officer or a prisons officer or an immigration officer apprehend?
So the focus is more on the police and the military.
And here we are in a situation where, the police cannot be everywhere, the military cannot be everywhere. Over 32,000 polling stations across the country. Certain areas have been designated as flashpoints, for which reason there must be massive deployments there. So at the end of the day, things could happen in places like, we've mentioned, and it will take a while for the police to be there. And people knowing this sometimes could take the laws into their own hands. These are really unfortunate developments, but I think whatever it is, these are individuals living in the communities. People know them. And therefore, when proper investigations are conducted, these people can be apprehended. The most important thing is, again, the question of impunity. People shouldn't commit crimes and be allowed to go scot-free. Once they are apprehended and dealt with, it serves as an example so that in the future, people would not think that when it comes to elections, if I'm a member of any of the two largest political parties, I have the liberty to do anything and go scot-free. So again, tracking, identifying, arresting them, prosecuting them, and using them to to serve as an example is something that is so critical.
So that example is needed. But staying briefly on the security front, something else I want us to look at. Now, from the end of the political parties themselves, we've been told as media people that we shouldn't enter certain terrain. Don't go calling, don't go doing this and that. The NCA came out with some, statements and all that. But we see the political parties, the two major political parties, the MPP and the NDC. I mean, you've seen the press conferences they've organized, and they've just stopped short of saying we've won. On social media, it's a gog. We've won. That's basically the message. How much of a problem is that in terms of our security in this election?
Well, certainly that is problematic, but in the kind of democratic environment we find ourselves in, it would also be off track to say that you don't expect the political parties to behave the way they are behaving. Again, it's winner takes all, and we must make sure we are winning. Indeed, you are generous in saying that they've stopped short of saying that they've won. I mean,
they basically said it.
They have said so. I listened to the press conference by the MPP. Driving here, I listened to the press conference. John Boydu addressed, and whilst driving here, I listened to the press conference that was addressed by the General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Esiedin Ketia. Even though in that NDC press conference, they did not categorically say we've won presidential. They focused on the parliamentary, where he said, "Look, we've won. We've taken parliament, and we're going to appoint the next speaker, the next chairman of the various committees, and so on and so forth." And given the correlation between parliamentary votes and presidential votes, there's no doubt that we are, also winning.
So that's basically a testament to the fact that they have won. That is their claim.
Exactly. Unfortunately, the EC this year, I think some steps they've taken, including the decision that collations will be done at the regional levels, and therefore they, here at the headquarters, will be collating just 16 regional results, is great. But in the past, as the elections are coming in, when they used to collate constituency results here in Accra, at the famous, strong room, the media, even as they do their independent, collation or analysis, would also be relying on the certified results from the EC at the headquarters. And that, to some extent, was quite helpful, because then, even if you didn't want to rely on the statistics and the figures that were being put out by the media organizations, you would always be looking at, okay, so how many constituencies have been certified so far, and where do we stand?
So the change in the processes, that has its own dynamics.
Yes, it does.
But we'll be coming to that, and of course I'll also, want to find out what your impressions are so far of the electoral process and the EC's work. But let's switch back now to the JoyNews studio, where MFR is standing by with more pertinent coverage of election 2020. Back to you, MFR.
Thank you very much, Benjamin Akakwe there, interacting with Suleimana Brahima of the Media Foundation West Africa. Of course, brutalities everywhere should be condemned, especially if it's perpetrated on journalists. Well,